These are working.
So far, so we kind of have to, so these are for the room. Sound, and then those are for the Zoom. The little ones. So we still have a part, we're missing a part that will eventually do that, not to have separate microphones. For now, we're. I see.
Yeah, I put mine to the side so I can finish it later.
I got, might as well grab one. Just got minutes.
One extra. It's small, but small. Very awesome. Yeah, this should kind of thing. Very. I see great things happening around the school now. Yeah, do I? Yeah, there. What's gonna happen? Yes, yes.
Is Laura gonna be here today?
Are we?
Do you know?
No,
She wasn't?
no,
I saw a lot of the.
she's gonna be on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Well, welcome everyone. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Larios, staff and visitors, and those who are joining us online. It is now 5:45, so we're going to go ahead and call this special meeting to order. And if you can please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we have here the agenda before us. If there aren't any changes, Jenny?
The only change I added was the pledge and the adoption. On the agenda that's in front of you.
Okay. Would anyone like to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening? Do I have a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? So all in favor of adopting the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So, for the vote, we now have an agenda. And moving on to the second item is public comment. Do we
We
have
did not receive any.
We do not have. The third item on our board agenda is board action items. We have the board superintendent operating agreement, board operating agreements, and the board goals. Do we go through each one of these separately?
There's the board with the operating agreements. We had a really big conversation about this at the board retreat. With the items, by one by one, to think about what is it to apply for this meeting, why it's important. The recommended action is to adopt the operating agreements. The board superintendent operating agreements as they're presented in the package. That's the first page.
Did we get any feedback from Vince? Did he recommend any edits to this or anything? I know he was gonna do like some cleanup on the back end.
Yeah, we did send an email.
Yeah, this document, we completed at the retreat. Vince did provide us some feedback on the board goal.
Okay,
The Page 4 in the packet. So we're going to practice a little bit with this feedback.
okay, perfect, thank you. Okay.
Yes, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move we approve the board superintendent operating agreement as presented.
Is there a second?
A
I
second.
see.
How about discussion around the superintendent operating agreement document? Any questions or discussion? Okay. So all in favor of adopting the superintendent operating agreement, say aye.
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 Page 3 of the packet, is the draft of the board operating agreement. Personally, we adopted this how the board and superintendent will work together and collaborate. The next document is really about how the board works together. And this is the draft, this is from the previous operating agreements. There are a couple of examples that were shared. The board provided district on Friday that might be a good place also to be able to review, and we think this might be this. If there need to be any additional revisions made.
And this is the draft that Vince has put together from the retreat.
Yeah, this is the one that was in draft and the board has.
So I do have comments on this one again. So on the second point on the draft, it talks about the meeting protocol. And at the very end of the paragraph, it says we will make decisions as a whole board. And it says only at properly called meetings. I think that leaves it open to interpretation. So I was thinking about putting something within the scope of Oregon law and policy to be more solidified to keep us within that scope. Not that we'll have any issue with that, but just to be a little more cemented in based on Oregon law policy. Instead of just saying, oh, an open, properly called. And I know that can indicate Oregon law, but be more specific. Based on ORS such and such policy. That's number 2. Meeting at the very end.
Any other-
Sometimes we cite it, or go ahead.
I was just gonna say, does anybody else have any thoughts or questions?
Never mind. I was gonna say the executive session ORS, we just stop it at 192.660, but we should ask Rebecca, our legal counsel, maybe she'll know the citation better than trying to just
For
guess.
that number 2 last sentence?
Yeah. But
Would it be helpful if we just add, do you think like to reference like or the public meeting law
I think that would be good.
referencing, okay,
But it always already says we will uphold the legal compliance and confidential requirements of all matters arising.
Just for reference, so people want.
I'm fine with that change.
yeah.
Any other feedback on numbers 3 through 7?
There's So for the board superintendent operating agreement, we all sign it, but for the board operating agreement, we don't sign it. Should that be edited? So like as a board, each of us signed it.
Where are you looking?
So for the board superintendent operating agreement that we just approved, usually all the board members sign it, at the bottom. And for the board operating agreement, it doesn't have a space for. members to
I see.
sign.
Well, it's still just a draft.
Yes,
So,
So
so
add
that's a
signature
recommendation,
line.
add signature line.
You know, the exact same. Bottom section, can you choose?
Is this all one document? Or will this be two separate?
These would be. Two separate, since this is not already adopted, I can just pull this like signatures of agreement, date, line, and then the signature line. And just add it to this document. I would also add Woodburn School District at the top.
the only thing is that we don't have like a purpose, like a goal. As for example, on the superintendent operates agreement, there's a purpose, but for the school board, the board operating agreement, there is no purpose, so like a goal that we do need to consider and add. As the other example.
I provided you. Some examples, they're not in the packet, but I sent them to you in an email, and that's printed here. Yeah, you feel it,
Yeah.
the copies that you're, What's the role of What if report, they have a
Well,
little intro that can wait for.
Yeah, so I think we need to come up with something like that. And then we can have it revised for the next time.
we could do that, or we could go with the purpose that we have already. Continuity purposes. As a board superintendent operating agreements or board operating agreement. Like a district wide.
all encompassing.
Or else then we're going to like editing different documents and stuff, and
Are you referring to the purpose from the previous document?
yeah, the board superintendent operating agreement.
Any thoughts about that? But including that as the purpose.
You're just taking out superintendent? Is
Yeah.
that what you-
Yeah, so to effectively meet the system's challenges, the school board must function together as a leadership team, etc. Basically just taking out superintendent.
We can do that. And just eliminate the superintendent portion and add board members.
So what we can do is, if everyone is in agreement, say. Well, it hasn't been a motion yet, but the motion would include. The amendment to add an updated purpose. Signature line, I don't think has to be part of the motion. As amended, that way it's not, we have to come back to it next week or next meeting, let's vote on it.
Are there any other thoughts on the document before? There's a request for a motion.
Usually document is that, you said 3 through 7 or just that one?
Just the draft portion, the 1 through 7 for board operating agreement.
Loudon not gonna join us today?
I think she was going to join us online, but I don't think that she is present. Unless we would like to wait for the next meeting when she is present. Is that what you're asking?
It makes sense that we would all adopt it
And
as a
refine
board.
it.
Yeah, as a board, and if she's not here, or if she was on Zoom, I think that'd be fine, but if she's not on Zoom.
Yeah, I don't think she's here.
Okay.
So if there are no other feedback, we can, looks like we can table this for the next time and not is there.
Okay.
Any other thoughts before on this document?
We'll bring the thing document.
Along page 4 in your package, has the draft of the board goals. You remember at the board retreat back in August, we went through a process of reviewing all the board standards and going through a prioritization. And what's most important at the point in time, we put work with Vince, identify what those higher leverage objectives are right now. So following the board retreat, Chair Navasky and I met and drafted with the goals, and they got feedback from Vince. And so we drafted those here, goal 1, related to standard 2 of community engagement, and goal 2 related to standard 5, using data to grow, continuous improvement and accountability. There are some points of conversation and discussion for the board to have tonight, related to some of those commitments and follow through then around community engagement. And then there's open-endedness there at the end of goal 1 as the board, the commitment being made to complete that community engagement goal.
If I may interject in this one, I was reading through it and there was one. I'm just presenting it to see if you guys agree. Where it says on the second sentence, it says within our school community to build positive relationships. To me, I was thinking of maybe putting the word foster. Because to me, we're already a community that's already built relationships. And to foster means to take care of something, to invest into it. I know it's a minor change, but to me, it means a lot more because you build by parts, where fostering is something you already have and you're gonna take care of it and make a good out of it. Because in the dictionary itself, foster even uses the sentence as an example: the teachers foster the education of a student. And it's also listed on bullet point 4 in the superintendent operating agreement, where it says effort to foster unity and harmony. So I think just for consistency purposes, instead of just building positives, since some of us have rapport and we built relationships in the community, I think just change it to foster.
I agree with that. Because then that way it's consistent.
Any other feedback on community engagement?
So is the intention for the sentence as a board we commit to have some type of like outcomes measure?
So we can discuss that
Mhm.
as to maybe what that would look like as a board and individually. I know that we do board evaluations sometime, I think February or maybe early spring, and those are some of the questions that we can will help us answer how we performed, and I think having something measurable that will keep us accountable and keep each other accountable to our commitment to community engagement. So I can open that to any conversation or discussion around that. I mean, I can start. I think one is just being present and visible in our schools, events, whatever is happening within our district. I think it's important for the community and our school community to know who we are, and that it's important to show up and get to know who our students and our families are. And so then the question is, if we do agree on that, what would that look like? As a
One idea, if there's a possibility, just as an action that we'll be taking on this year, that I'm excited about, is being in school visits with the board. So following school reports, being able to go back and do site visits and maybe something that the board would be interested in including as something that's measurable, attending those school visits to the bottom.
I think that kind of goes along the lines with what we discussed, data. I mean, granted, it may not be something we're like taking notes, but at least we can use it for our discussions and our experiences to have an internal data base, if you will, regarding information and just the outreach that we have, the communication with the parents, students and whatnot. And
But your weekly reports are very useful as well, and also in any participation with the teachers and students that we have the open opportunity to join into this and participate as well.
We discussed with the board, we talked about some of the upcoming committees that are going to be available, and you'll see the discussion for what those are in the next report that we share now. Or on Friday, I might do the next update. So you have an opportunity to think about what's available there. But joining and participating in those committees is another opportunity. There's a lot of evening events that are happening in the schools as well, and being present at those parent nights, the conferences, and there's another idea, possibility of coordinating. Willing to.
So what do we want to commit to? As a okay, how about we'll start with one that Superintendent Larios mentioned, is just visiting schools. Is that something that we could do as board? Your thoughts?
Definitely, and then the evening events, like the open houses or.
So we're gonna backtrack a little bit, so we're just gonna stick to the visiting, so then that would look like. You mentioned, reports, and so those reports come in.
Yeah, so each of their board calendar includes the school reports, and so after the school reports happen, scheduling a site visit at that school the following week. So the school will come and share highlights of the work that's being done, and then we can schedule a visit at that school the next week.
Okay. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, right?
And
So as a board, we commit to visiting schools after their board report.
hi, Laura, can you hear us? We're on page 4.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry. I'm very sick. I have COVID. So, I could not join you guys.
We
Can
can
you,
barely hear you, just a
Hold on,
second.
Lana.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Can you try that again?
Hi, good evening.
We can hear you now.
Okay. I said good evening, chair, vice chair. I'm sick. I'm home. I'm sick. I have COVID. So I'm here. Sorry.
Thank you for joining us. We are on page 4 and we're discussing number 1, which is community engagement and how we as a board can commit to one being present in our schools. So we were talking about visiting schools after a school report. Any thoughts, Laura, on her feedback around visiting schools?
It's a good idea to visit. It's always pleasant to see staff and the students, of course. Yeah, so it's always nice to visit and to be present in our schools.
Thank you. How about other options that were mentioned?
On that theme, I know sometimes with folks, calendaring is hard. Do we want to, so we have a board meeting on Tuesday, for example. Do we want to say the following Friday at 9 a.m. is the board walkthrough? That way we have a set time for the year that we know.
That's something
that
we
work
can
for
talk
folks?
about.
I think that makes a lot of sense to have a standing time so that people can plan ahead. And, have a calendar, well in advance.
So it looks like that would be like a once a month.
Yeah.
Because after a regular board meeting, it'd be
Yeah.
once a month.
Oh, and the months that the two schools are for.
That's true.
4 weeks. For the week that meetings don't fall.
That would be a better option because, we have everything crammed in 1 week. It could be overwhelming with our other schedules as well.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, and maybe, I'm more sure about that I could kind of work on the details of when we look at the calendar and identify when those standing times are. And for the purpose of tonight, just committing to like, we'll do those visits, and then we can work on like the tabling or the calendar that when those visits and times. And if people could let us know, like, if we maybe times to avoid for my schedule, like, if I have some things that are really hard to adjust.
I'm assuming we'll discuss it when we get there, but as far as scheduling, it's been stated, I'm assuming it's, granted schedules, it's not gonna be everybody unless the schedule doesn't align. At least some board representation, is that what I'm understanding?
What are your thoughts? I think my thought is, if we can all be there. There are times when life doesn't allow that to happen, but I think, that should be a goal of ours, is for us to be there.
Jenny, do you know how that might conflict with having to provide video for board meetings?
I think you guys would be fine.
Okay.
You won't be making decisions, you just keep the things.
Okay.
Think about it. We thought they were gonna go somewhere.
We went to the summer school.
Yes. I checked that thing too. It'll be fine. It'll still have to public, it'll still be there'll still be a notice to the public, but we just want to. They'll still, because you'll have a forum there.
Any other suggestions as to how we as a whole board can be present?
Well, like I mentioned, the evening school events, but we'd have to coordinate with Juan and to see if we can all commit, or but just a couple of us at least.
Yeah, I wonder if like the school events and more specific events would be more at the individual level.
Yeah.
But sometimes not all of us can attend those. So for example, like at the individual level, I could say I'm committed to attending, you know, a number of events per month, for example. So that's like measurable, because at the end of the month, you can say like, I committed to 1 or 2. You
Right,
know, did I do that? Yes or no?
individually.
Right, right.
So we could start with at least trying 1. We can move from there.
Mhm.
So.
Sorry, I'm trying to think how I'm gonna write this down. Do you mean as a board, one time go to a school visit, or go to like an evening event? Or are you referring to the individual?
Individual board member. Each one of us tries to commit to at least 1 school event per month.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Does that sound fair for everyone? Laura?
I like Rosie's idea, like, to be there, to be at an event. At least one of us, at one event, and if it's possible to walk through some of the schools, we don't have to do it like packed many schools in one day, or what will be a priority. It has to we can show up, but then it will be nice if we have a meaning, why are we there? We do care, but then if there's something else going on, that we could be present, it will be perfect.
Thank you. I think also what Rosie was referring to is like individually, we will, our goal will be individually to attend at least 1 school event per month. So there's 1 as a board, and then the second one would be individually. Are we committing to each attending a school event once per month?
I think also like, because there's Teacher Appreciation Week, there's Admin Assistant, I think Secretary's Day. There's celebrations such as Cinco de Mayo. And I think to be involved in those things, I don't know if they have in the past, but just to be there to help celebrate, to truly let people know that we do care. And that, celebrate victories and holidays as a community, and granted we are the board, so I think things like that as well.
Yeah, we make it practice providing the board to always do events that we participate in as a district. I don't know that it's been past practice in the past, but I think it's a great idea. That would be each of the board is invited to participate in all those. The teacher appreciate it, then when we go around and visit and drop off items at school, invite board members to join us.
What about other events? Kind of, I know our scope is schools, but our community holds different events, there's YMCA type stuff that involves Woodburn students. I'm just stepping outside the box a little more. I mean, that might be more responsibility. Obviously, it's a discussion, but just things like that, I know that there's talks of programs to help curb violence or, just different aspects of community. Like I said, I know we're the scope of the board, but however, just to show that, we support the community.
Yeah, we should be there practice as well. Upcoming this will be at the estates in October. The estates will have a table fair, and the name of it is escaping where that will have a presence there at a table. We'll have the fire department with the the safety fair in a couple weeks. Also, I'll be downtown at the trunk or treat. So those are different events that will the digital club presence on the table. And we'll invite for them to join us. With us.
I would say in the past, that's usually how that happens.
Yeah.
Receive an email, invite you if you can make it to attend.
You wanna be really, I would say maybe you can include something like commit to having a board able at one district-wide event a year, for example. Yeah, the Nino is probably a really good one. And that's something that you've done in the past, but I think you really wanna be, have something in your goal, maybe being more specific on. Committing as a board to being present at one district-wide event. Or two. That's something like given, or.
It's a huge part.
Yeah, that's a huge one, that's just.
And we had support of the event there last time, because the distribute some materials to folks. That was great. Great turnout, sure.
Is that an event we can commit to? The other year is usually April and last Saturday.
Last Saturday.
Last Saturday of April.
One year we did the open house visits to Washington Elementary. We did Valor Heritage. And so it was very nice to also be at the open house with information, saying hi to parents, and then, just to so we could be public, we could be out there with the community.
Yeah, that was the year that we readopted the strategic plan. I want to say it was 5 years ago. And at that time, the board committed to attending, kind of splitting up and attending all the back school nights. And then we created a card that on one side it had your pictures. And then on the other side it had the strategic plan. And so then everybody, oh, did you know we have the strategic plan? So they were passing it on to families. That was the year that that was something that the board had committed to do at that time.
Because at this time, open house has mostly ended for most schools, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
we do have conferences though.
I was gonna say, there's conferences coming up in October.
What about like? Cause. When they did Mary Poppins at the high school, that was awesome. I was like, the kids did amazing. So what if, things like that? I love, how well-known the Woodburn Mariachi Band is. Amazing. I mean, just support events like that. I don't know if they've supported them specifically in the past, but, because we take pride in our culture, obviously, and, in our students. So just ideas.
I almost agree with that more, because just give us opportunity to see community engagement. Or because I remember, for example, the open house nights, we went. Like, let's face it, people don't go to open house to meet important. Like, they go there to meet their principal and their teachers and like let their kids like find their lockers. And it almost felt like we were in a well, maybe this is me personally, how I internalized it. I almost felt like I was in the way. Like, hey, you want to talk about our strategic plan? They're there for their kids. Like, so it almost felt, I don't know how to put it, but I like the idea better of like, make sure we're visible at sporting events or school events, mariachi's going somewhere, visible in that way, rather than almost getting, I want to say like giving the money, but to like balance in that.
So are you referring to like individually or as a board attend one of those events?
I would say the board.
Yeah, so that can fall under like your individual once a month.
board updates kind of thing. But I think that's something that should be, that would be like celebrated and fall under this category.
One can be brave that they're on the 29th, people are trying to talk on the baseball game. Opportunity to be a part of that like festivity.
Buy extra candy.
$1.
What day is that?
The 29th.
Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Who we playing this year?
We are going to Dallas.
And the district usually has a club. No.
We don't just
Trying to check
usually
the calendar.
will join one of the boats at the high school class.
But it's always good to start somewhere, like for instance, the school visits and the school evening events. Just got, it's just one step forward.
I think homecoming would be a great event to attend, just because it's kind of like the first big event, and I don't know if this year they're having like the. Trying to think, yeah. So I know like that week is a huge event,
So what kind of year?
a bonfire. Yeah, so even just being present, I mean, maybe not as a board, but just individually during that time. I would be up for participating in the parade. If someone wanted to participate. Okay,
Usually it's at 4. 4-ish.
Yeah, that's one of the high schools.
okay. And then you end at the high school.
There's a loop around town. It's the high school, starts there and it's there.
So how are we feeling about our commitment as a board and individually? I feel like we've talked it through. We each know what would interest us and that we would participate.
I
And-
agree. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Laura.
I said I agree. I'm sorry. I wish I could be there with you guys, but it's okay. Yeah, so I agree with the events and what we are committing to do.
So then moving on to the second goal. So it's using data for continuous improvement and accountability. Any questions, feedbacks, or thoughts?
I was looking at the word rigor in the third sentence, so I was just trying to understand the context that it's being used as, because looking it up in the dictionary, it, ostensity, difficulty, strictness. And so I just wanted some clarification as to the context of, for all students, strategy that raise rigor for all students. And
I think the way it's being used in the goal here is the idea of the expectation that comes to support that's necessary to reach those. And another point I want to bring up with this goal that we've had some conversation around, with the achievement, there's other data points that impact achievement, so that would be a part of the data reporting as well. Data around not only the academic, but also data around the safety, behavior, and attendance.
If you don't mind the word rigor, would you prefer to change it or just eliminate it?
no, like I said, I was just wanting to know the context, because what, obviously my background thinking of rigor, I think rigor mortis. So that's, yeah. Yeah, no, but thank you for the context in that regard.
Any other thoughts?
I think as a board, as a board and as, you know, leadership team and office at the table. This speaks to what we're looking at for the board, but it also signals to on, like, hey, the board is interested in, data, use improvement, raising rigor. When I think of rigor, I think of curriculum, you know, so it just depends on the context. But this is something that Juan will use as a lens and as a North Star. When he works with his team and folks presenting the board during our board meetings, I think of the things that connect to the building. And so when they come and present to the board, they're thinking about how can I tell the board about opportunities for me? How am I presenting in a way that shows data, particularly, you know, outcome data, or how the board can monitor data? Along those lines, I think it's cool for us, but it's also for one to see that it's important to us. So I'm sure we'll see it.
Yeah, most definitely, you know, that rates our achievement. We have to spend time talking about it and saying that it's a part of our culture. So yeah, it's really important to us as well. So that this is important to us. Our accountability to our data and the commitment there, of course, thinking really is to be to me, to bring that forward and make that the part of an ongoing data cycle that we're sharing and making public. Here's where we are. Here's what we're doing.
And then would there be opportunity to follow up, for example, on like that first report? So let's say we present data and then if we'd like to know what it looks like in the mid-year at the end of the year, what would that look like?
You know, maybe as an example of the school presents. And then when the person was presented and they provide that data, I'd be curious about that. So where are you now at the end of the year? I mean, you could provide that. You know, that's the question. You got to get that for you. That's the follow up. You know, we heard from Lincoln in October, you wondering where they are now in March.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to get some sort of summary at the end of the year or even mid-year of what was presented and what the data looks like and what it looks like at midpoint or even at the end of the year.
As a board member, one of the most informative board meetings that I recall, to talk about data, were when our educators and our staff came in and talked to us about assessments, how they're doing the different assessments we're doing in the district. And like had a presentation like that again. Certainly for me, I took a lot out of it. See how we can look at the data, but how both of the district are looking at the data. See what there's overlap.
It might be a great topic for a work session. To spend some time looking at what the different sensors are, what they're measuring, how they're used. It has set the stage. So when data gets presented, there's that background knowledge that people have. Here's how the data was gathered.
Right, anything else? So then for today, for this document, are you seeking to adopt, or would you make changes and then bring back?
I would actually prefer to edit it.
Bring back? Okay.
Yeah, I would, we have that version, they also notes on it, but it's not part of it. So, better.
Should everything go?
Yeah, and we could just review it at the next board meeting, because it seems like we've covered it all.
I guess one clarification, I didn't really hear. A consensus on committing to a district like that, I know we mentioned the other meeting, but,
Mhm.
and it doesn't need to be the other meeting, I was just suggesting that. That you have at least, so that if you show up or you don't show up, definitely. I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head, but that is a big one. A big event. And maybe as a board committee to be present at it. I don't know, maybe you don't want to be specific to our district, but as a board, be present in the community, it could be just community or district event. And then throughout the year, then you can decide what event you're choosing.
But it is a good thing to do at least one per year.
I would do.
That would be a minimum,
Yeah,
yes. That is in April. So if we, as a board, won't be present, that'll be a few months away. But what can we say yes to as a board?
unless we want to discuss this further later.
Sounds like we don't want to
Nobody
commit.
likes to commit anything, but April sounds like a great opportunity.
I think I mean, you don't have to name the specific event, or you can say to a year, and then they can be, whether it's community or, and maybe not everybody's at both of them, but.
Mhm.
um,
I would say at least 2 a year. I mean, there's, for example, the other Niño, so I would say maybe this year, at the end of this year. And then attend another before the end of the school year. As the board.
You know, there's a lot of community events that
Exactly.
we usually have a table at. You can join.
So if it's not a school event, it's a community events, so some form of engagement.
Right, so the question is, do we want to commit to 1 or 2? As a whole board?
I would say 2.
So in that case, maybe a school event and a community event,
Right.
would that be fair?
We can go to the musical festival at the high school before the end of the year, and then April, Dia del Niño. The Dia del Niño is more like a community, and I mean, it's at the school, but well, the festival, the musical festival is the same thing. Never mind.
Yeah, we could create a calendar or a list of, some of the traditional, events that are happening as a district, so we have an idea or a list of things to choose from. Probably, I was trying to brainstorm right now, we can put that together.
Yeah.
We can get that to everybody, so the opportunity to browse in.
So can we agree on 2 events to attend as a board this year?
Let's
Yeah.
just,
Was that a yes, Laura?
Yes. Am I breaking?
You're just really loud. I don't know if we could adjust, we try to adjust the volume, we can't figure it out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
How'd this sound?
You're good, you're good.
You're really loud. It's okay.
go to the living room. No, and I get excited because I have a friend who's a school board member in Southern California, and the community engagement part aspect of it that he tells me about. I mean, granted, it's two different states, but it's just amazing that, they do draw in and it's going, and it goes well. And so just to know that we can do this in a much smaller community, I think we have a better chance at building that or fostering that. So.
Always welcome to go to them. There's a lot.
I just really want to see things that's, updates, digital opportunities, digital calendar.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
On your weekly update report, that'd be great. Of course, it's also available on social media.
And this on the website as well, the calendar. that's there.
Okay. So I think, are we good and clear on that, Jenny? Okay. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the board calendar. With the upcoming events, meetings, they're listed. We have September 26th, October 10th, and October 21st. And then for our fifth item on the agenda, future agenda items. Any suggestions? Do you want to talk about this one there?
Well, we have an agenda for the September regular meeting that includes reports related to our strategic plan. So our departments, our services, and some of the work that's being done to achieve our strategic plan. Some of those goals, we have that on the agenda, and also the organizational chart. On first time meeting. One thing I heard tonight is we need to work that.
The annual calendar, I know Jenny included it. I saw it actually because in the top of my head, what schools are presenting. That's what we need. But there's
Two different assessments of the team and students for us.
It would be nice if it's September, we started to have like a rotation on, here's how the first couple weeks of school went. Here's an update on, I know you talked about enrollment data. To see how much students we have a forecast of how much we would have, but we can get like a ballpark estimate. I think that's.
Yes, those pieces I could include in the law, piece I could include in the update. Here's for enrollment numbers. There or body count, so this are this point in time compared to what they are working for last year at this point.
So next item on our agenda is executive session. So at this time, we will recess the special meeting for an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660(2)(f) to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection. Thank you for joining us this evening. You're welcome to come back whenever that might be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
You
Two.
Jenny, you're gonna send me another link, right?
Is it on her? I wonder if it's on her
And
end.
Jane just stepped out of the room. She goes back, we'll see what link that is.
Yeah, doesn't she have to close the Zoom meeting in order to start it with the?
I'll log out and then
I'll go-
I'll be waiting for Jenny's new link. Do I stay here or do I log out and log in again?
Yeah, I'll have to send you a new link, Laura. I can't. Yeah.
Okay,
And the family, I'll
You
put,
can- huh?
can you just stay for a second?
Yeah, you can put me in a separate room.
Well, 'cause I don't know if I can on the webinar, but we might not need to go into executive session, or we might just need to close it because family didn't show up.
Okay,
I'm calling them now. I'm gonna mute us.
So then are we gonna,
Yeah, he's there. Laura?
yes?
Thank you. I'll send you another link
Thank you.
now.
Great.
Okay. We're going into
a little?
So who is this gal?